USS Nevada represented a fundamental shift in battleship design for the United States Navy. As the first of the standard-type battleships, she introduced the triple turret, oil-fired boilers, geared turbines, and most importantly, the all-or-nothing armor scheme. These innovations would go on to define U.S. battleship construction for the next several decades. Beyond her technical significance, Nevada's resilience at Pearl Harbor and her combat service during World War II helped to secure her place in history as one of the U.S. Navy's most influential and enduring warships. Nevada's keel was laid down on November 4, 1912 at the Fore River Shipyard in Quincy, Massachusetts. Overall, she was 853 feet long, had a beam of 95 feet, and displaced about 27,500 tons. She was armed with a main battery of 10 14-inch 45 caliber guns, which were arranged in two pairs of twin and triple turrets. She was the first U.S. battleship to feature the triple turret design, which eliminated the need for the midship turret, which had become a mainstay of U.S. design since the Delaware class. Her guns had a maximum elevation of 15 degrees and were capable of firing a 1,400-pound armor-piercing shell about 21,000 yards. Trials with the triple turret design had revealed excessive dispersion patterns owing to the proximity of the gun barrels to one another. In order to correct this, a 10-second delay was added between each gun. Her secondary battery initially consisted of 21 individually mounted 5-inch 51 caliber guns. 18 of these were located in casemates along both sides of her hull, while another one was mounted directly at her stern. These proved to be excessively wet in anything but calm seas and were frequently unusable. Her other two 5-inch guns were located in open mounts on either side of her conning tower. Nevada also had a pair of torpedo tubes located below her waterline on each broadside, and, just prior to her commissioning, she was equipped with a pair of 3-inch 50 caliber anti-aircraft guns. Where Nevada's design was truly revolutionary, though, was in the creation and implementation of the all-or-nothing armor scheme. The all-or-nothing armor scheme focuses on protecting the systems that are vital to a ship's functioning and survivability, namely her magazines, machinery, communication, and command spaces. Nevada's armor belt was at its thickest over these spaces, 13.5 inches to be exact, while the rest of her hull was significantly less armored. Her deck armor ranged in thickness from 3 to 6.25 inches, while her barbettes were protected by 13 inches of armor, and her conning tower by 16 inches. Another revolutionary aspect of Nevada's design was her propulsion system. With Nevada, the U.S. Navy decided to implement oil-fired boilers and geared turbines, which were much more efficient than the coal-fired boilers and direct drives that were used by her predecessors. This change increased both her fuel economy and range. Rated for just over 26,000 shaft horsepower, she had a top speed of 20.5 knots, although she did manage to top 21 knots during her sea trials. She was designed to have a range of 8,000 nautical miles at 10 knots. However, under actual service conditions, this proved to be more like 6,000 nautical miles. Nevada was launched in July of 1914 and commissioned on March 11, 1916. After fitting out, she joined the Atlantic Fleet in late May. She then spent the next 2 years training and cruising off the U.S. East Coast. Nevada was initially held stateside after U.S. entry into the First World War due to the shortage of oil in Britain. She finally crossed the Atlantic in late August of 1918 and spent the remaining months of the war escorting convoys on the final leg of their journey to the British Isles. After helping to escort President Woodrow Wilson to the Paris Peace Conference in December, she headed for New York, where she arrived on December 26 with the rest of the fleet to much fanfare. During a refit in 1919, Nevada had her 5-inch battery reduced to 12 and received flying-off platforms for aircraft on both of her super-firing turrets. These proved to be very problematic, as her guns destroyed the platforms whenever they were fired, and they also limited the ability of the guns to be elevated and depressed. After this refit, Nevada spent the next 8 years splitting her time between the Pacific and Atlantic conducting training and goodwill visits. In September of 1927, Nevada arrived at the Norfolk Navy Yard for a major modernization. Her lattice cage masts were replaced by 2 tripod masts, and fire control tops were mounted atop both of them. Her superstructure was reconfigured as well, so that her 5-inch guns could be moved a deck higher. Nevada had anti-torpedo blisters added, which increased her beam to 107 feet, and her torpedo tubes were plated over. She also received new turbines and boilers, which were more efficient and increased her range. This saved a considerable amount of weight, which was then used to increase her deck armor by another 2 inches and add the torpedo blisters. 2 float-plane catapults were added, one on her fantail and the other on top of main battery turret number 3. Nevada's anti-aircraft battery was also significantly updated by the addition of 8 50-caliber water-cooled machine guns and 8 5-inch 25-caliber guns. These alterations increased Nevada's standard displacement to 30,500 tons and her complement to 1,374 men. When Nevada left Norfolk in January of 1930, she was assigned to the U.S. Pacific Fleet. Over the next 10 years, she operated off of the West Coast and in Hawaiian waters, as well as in the Caribbean when the annual fleet exercises were held there. She had many routine overhauls and refits during this time period, but the only major modification came in the mid-1930s when the elevation of her main battery was adjusted to 30 degrees, which increased their maximum range to 34,000 yards. In May of 1940, Nevada, along with the other major elements of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, were relocated from California to Pearl Harbor as tensions with the Japanese Empire began to rise. On the morning of Sunday, December 7, 1941, Nevada was moored alongside Ford Island just ahead of USS Arizona at the end of Battleship Row. Just before 8 a.m., as the ship's band began to play morning colors as her flag was raised for the day, Japanese planes appeared overhead and began their attack. General quarters was promptly sounded, and within minutes her crew was in the fight. Her anti-aircraft batteries opened up on a division of enemy torpedo planes that attacked her several minutes later. One plane was downed by the intense barrage, but another one managed to strike Nevada on her port side. As the offender pulled away, it too was brought down by Nevada's gunners. Nevada incurred minor damage and a 5-degree list to port, which was corrected in quick order by counterflooding. Then, at 8:06, she was showered in debris from Arizona's magazine explosion. Ensign Joe Talzig was the officer of the deck that morning, and prior to the attack he had ordered his second boiler to be lit off. This move, combined with the absence of another ship alongside her, allowed Nevada to slip out of her berth at 8:32. At this point, her gunners had already downed 4 enemy planes. Talzig was severely wounded when Nevada was attacked as she made her way down the channel, but he refused to leave his station and would end up having to have his leg amputated. For his actions, he received the Navy Cross and a Purple Heart. As I mentioned, Nevada quickly became a prime target for the dive bombers of the second wave that arrived at 8:50. As she steamed past the 1010 dock, she was struck in quick succession by 5 250-pound bombs. One exploded over the enlisted galley, while another struck the port director platform and exploded at the base of her stack. The other 3 struck near or forward of turret number 1. One of these passed through her hull before exploding, while the other exploded within her confines near a gasoline tank. The leakage and vapors from this tank ignited and caused intense fires around the fort part of Nevada. Her fort magazines were flooded for obvious reasons, and this, along with the counterflooding from the earlier torpedo strike, lowered her bow to the point that water was able to enter her at the second deck level. As it was evident by this point that she was not going to make it out of the harbor, she was ordered to return. Fearing that she would sink and block the channel, Chief Quartermaster Robert Sedbury spun his wheel hard to port, and she eased into the mud on the south side of the channel near Hospital Point. In this photo, which was taken shortly after she was beached, the channel's current has swept her stern 180 degrees towards the sea channel, and her bow is pointed back towards Battleship Row. Within minutes of her grounding, Captain Francis W. Scanlon, who had gone ashore on the 6th to visit with grandsons he had never seen before, boarded and resumed command. About 15 minutes later, tugboats Hoga and YT-130 freed Nevada and moved her across to the western side of the channel in an effort to avoid bottlenecking the channel at Hospital Point, which was and still is the main thoroughfare for the Pearl Harbor Naval Base. While all of this was going on, Warrant Machinist Donald K. Ross was fighting below decks to keep Nevada going. When the fort dynamo room where he was stationed filled with smoke, he ordered his men to leave and continued working by himself until being blinded and passing out. After regaining consciousness, he secured the fort room and proceeded to the after dynamo room where he continued his efforts until Nevada was beached. For his actions, he received the Medal of Honor and a Purple Heart. Altogether, Nevada was hit by at least 6 bombs and 1 torpedo, but it is very possible that she was struck by as many as 10 bombs, as some damaged areas were of sufficient size to indicate that more than 1 bomb may have struck there. 60 of her men were killed in the attack, and another 109 were wounded. After much preparation, Nevada was refloated in early February of 1942. On the 18th, she entered dry dock number 2 at the Pearl Harbor Navy Yard, where temporary repairs were made over the next 6 weeks so that she could make the trip to the Puget Sound Navy Yard for permanent repairs and a modernization. This work was completed by October of 1942, and when she emerged from the yard, her appearance was significantly altered. All of her pre-war 5-inch guns had been replaced by 16 5-inch 38 caliber dual-purpose guns, which were housed in 8 twin-barrel enclosed mounts. Her light anti-aircraft battery was also significantly updated by the addition of 8 quadruple 40mm Bofors mounts and 40 single-mounted 20mm Oerlikon autocannons. Her aft tripod mast had been removed in favor of a smaller structure, and her superstructure had been rebuilt to give her updated light anti-aircraft battery better fields of fire. She also received new radar and communications equipment. In May of 1943, Nevada moved north to provide fire support for the landings on the Alaskan island of Attu. Afterward, she was dispatched to the Norfolk Navy Yard for further modernization work. She then spent the summer and fall of 1943 on convoy duty in the North Atlantic, and in April of 1944, Nevada was chosen by Rear Admiral Morton Deo to be his flagship for the invasion of northern France. She commenced her fire support duties on the morning of June 6 by targeting German artillery batteries to the north of Utah Beach. She then provided gunfire support to the airborne units that were attempting to capture and hold the town of St. Mary Glees. Nevada continued providing gunfire support until retiring to England on June 17 to replenish. In the 11 days that she spent off the Normandy coast, she fired a total of 926 14-inch shells and almost 3,500 5-inch shells in support of the invasion. On June 25th, she closed on the French coast once more. As Nevada moved into position to support the U.S. Army units that were advancing on the Cherbourg Peninsula, German shore batteries opened up on her and her escorts. The Germans were somewhat accurate and managed to bracket Nevada with a 3-gun salvo in the opening minutes. Over the next several hours, she got into a rolling gunfight with these batteries, while also providing the on-call fire support that she was there for. And even though she was straddled over 20 times, Nevada sustained no casualties and only some minor superficial damage from shell fragments. In all, she fired a total of 112 14-inch and 985 5-inch shells by the time the day was over. Nevada's next action came in late August when she supported the Allied landings in southern France. On August 19th, Nevada, the French battleship Lorraine, and the heavy cruiser Augusta took on the heavily reinforced fortress at Sainte-Marie-de-la-Mer, which was equipped with 4 13-inch naval guns that had a range of nearly 22 miles. The guns, which commanded every approach to the port of Toulon, had been salvaged by the Germans from the French battleship Provence after the French fleet had been scuttled almost 2 years earlier. She also engaged the German-manned French battleship Strasbourg. Nevada then spent the next several days engaging shore batteries throughout the area. She completely destroyed 3 batteries, put a 4th out of action, and partially disabled a 5th. During these engagements, Nevada's gunnery department had to frequently compensate for her worn-out gun barrels. At the very end of August, she got under way for the United States to prepare for her deployment to the Pacific Theater. That preparation included an overhaul at Norfolk during the fall of 1944, and afterwards she undertook extensive training off the Californian coast before heading for the Western Pacific in late December. Nevada's first action in the Pacific came when she supported the landings at Iwo Jima. Just after 7 a.m. on the morning of February 16th, she fired her first salvo at the Japanese defenders. Bad weather hampered operations the next day, but conditions improved enough on the 18th to allow the bombardment to resume. After several gunboats came under heavy fire that afternoon, Nevada moved to within 3,000 yards of the beach to silence the offending battery. On the 19th, she covered the 5th Marines as they went ashore and then handled their calls for fire support over the subsequent days. She remained off Iwo Jima until March 7th when she retired to prepare for the upcoming Okinawa campaign. On March 24th, Nevada and her bombardment group commenced their pre-invasion bombardment of Okinawa. 3 days later, on the 27th, she was struck in the vicinity of her No. 3 turret by a kamikaze. 11 were killed and 49 were wounded. Turret 3 was damaged, as were 3 20mm mounts and 2 of the ship's Kingfisher floatplanes. On D-Day, which was April 1st, 1945, Nevada covered the 1st Marine Division as it went ashore. On the 5th, she was struck by 5 rounds from a 6-inch shore battery. 2 men were killed and 17 were wounded. Nevada replied with her 14-inch guns and promptly silenced the offending battery. Despite her damage, she remained on station off Okinawa until April 4th when she got underway for Pearl Harbor for repairs and an overhaul. After this work was completed, she bombarded the bypassed Gauntlet atoll on June 8th on her way back to the Western Pacific. At the beginning of July, with the Okinawa campaign now completed, Nevada ventured into the East China Sea with the battleships California and West Virginia to cover minesweeping operations off the coast of Japan. After a cruise to Leyte in mid-August, she returned to Buckner Bay off Okinawa, and that is where she was when the war officially came to a close on September 2nd, 1945. On September 23rd, she got on her way for California. After some back and forth by the Navy, in November she was assigned to participate in the experimental atomic bomb tests that were scheduled to be held at Bikini Atoll in mid-1946. Nevada survived Test Able on July 1st. She then survived Test Baker on July 25th. Despite extensive damage and contamination, she was returned to Pearl Harbor afterwards, where she was decommissioned on August 29, 1946. Almost 2 years later, she was towed 65 miles to the southwest of Pearl Harbor, where she was used as a gunnery target by the battleship Iowa and several other warships. She proved to be just as stubborn as she had been during her career, though. When naval gunfire alone couldn't sink her, the Navy turned to aerial bombs, torpedoes, and rocket fire, which together finally sent her to the bottom. Nevada was subsequently stricken from the Naval Vessel Register on August 12, 1948. On May 11, 2020, her wreck was discovered at a depth of about 15,400 feet. She lies upside down, and the scars of the shellfire and torpedo hits that sank her are visible. A large debris field, which includes her main battery turrets and an M26 Pershing tank that was on her deck at the time of her sinking, is nearby. Her hull number 36 is still visible on her stern. Nevada received 7 battle stars for her World War II service. What do you all think defines USS Nevada more? Her revolutionary design or her survivability? Be sure to comment below and let me know what you think. If you made it this far, thank you. And if you enjoyed my video, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell as well. Thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next video.